Let's talk about the budget bill, America's financial blueprint for the next several years. It decides where every taxpayer dollar goes, from the military and roads to healthcare and food assistance. When a government passes a budget, it's declaring its priorities, directly impacting your wallet, health, job, and community. On July 4, 2025, President Trump and a Republican Congress passed a sweeping budget bill, a seismic shift in American policy. This bill makes deep tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy, while slashing social programs millions rely on. Over the next few scenes, we'll break down what's in the bill, who it helps, who it hurts, and what it means for America's future. The bill's centerpiece? It's a sweeping overhaul of the tax code, with a focus on making the most significant elements of the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent for years to come. These tax cuts, originally set to expire, would now become a lasting fixture, fundamentally reshaping how much corporations and high-income individuals pay in taxes. Most of the benefits flow to the top 20% of earners, those making over $220,000 a year, who stand to gain an average of $13,000 annually. For the ultra-wealthy, the windfall is even greater, with some seeing six-figure tax breaks. Meanwhile, low and middle-income families see much smaller gains, often just a few $100s a year. And when you factor in potential cuts to public services, the net benefit for these families shrinks even further, raising concerns about fairness. Corporations also emerge as big winners, enjoying permanent deep tax cuts and new deductions for building facilities, expanding operations, and investing in equipment. Supporters argue these changes will unleash a wave of investment, boost economic growth, and create new jobs across the country, especially in manufacturing and tech sectors. But critics see it differently. They call it a massive giveaway to the wealthy and big business, warning that it will widen inequality and leave working families behind. The Congressional Budget Office projects these tax cuts will add over $3 trillion to the national debt in the next decade, putting future government programs and fiscal stability at risk. The question remains, are we borrowing trillions to benefit those who need it least, while leaving average Americans with little to show for it? That's the heart of the debate, whether these permanent tax cuts will truly help the nation prosper, or simply deepen the divide between rich and poor. To offset those tax cuts, the bill slashes nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid over 10 years. It imposes stricter eligibility, national work requirements, and caps federal funding, shifting more costs to states. Up to 17 million Americans could lose health insurance, according to health policy experts. This would be the largest increase in uninsured Americans in modern history. Supporters argue these reforms control costs and promote self-sufficiency. Opponents say most Medicaid recipients who can work already do, and these changes will push millions off coverage, increasing medical debt and worse health outcomes. The stakes for vulnerable Americans are enormous. The bill also targets SNAP, or food stamps, which helps 42 million Americans buy groceries. New work requirements and a mandate for states to share costs could push up to 8 million people off food assistance. Critics warn this will increase hunger and food insecurity, especially for children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Rural hospitals, already struggling, face new funding caps and more red tape. Many could close, leaving communities without emergency care or local doctors. Hospital closures devastate small towns, both medically and economically. Supporters call this fiscal discipline. Opponents see it as abandoning vulnerable communities. The impact on rural America could be severe. The new federal budget makes its priorities clear, pouring over $100 billion into border security and immigration enforcement. This is one of the largest single-year investments in border infrastructure and personnel in recent history, signaling a dramatic shift in national spending. Of that, $50 billion is earmarked specifically for building a new border wall, expanding existing barriers, and upgrading surveillance technology along the southern border. Another $45 billion will fund the construction of new ICE detention centers, increasing capacity to detain and process migrants. An additional $14 billion is allocated for deportation operations, including transportation, legal processing, and coordination with foreign governments. The plan also calls for hiring 10,000 new ICE agents by 2029, dramatically expanding the agency's workforce and enforcement reach. Meanwhile, the bill takes a sharp turn away from clean energy, eliminating all federal tax credits for renewable energy projects, including solar and wind. Federal support for renewables will end, forcing many projects to shut down or scale back and putting thousands of green jobs at risk. The popular $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit will disappear after September 2025, making it harder for Americans to afford new EVs. Without these incentives, electric vehicles will become significantly pricier for consumers, potentially slowing adoption rates across the country. Supporters of the bill argue that the EV market should stand on its own, without government subsidies, and that border security is a top priority for national safety. But critics warn that cutting support for green technology will slow innovation, harm climate efforts, and put the U.S. behind in the global clean energy race. The message from lawmakers is clear. Border security is in, green energy is out, at least for now. These choices will have lasting impacts, shaping America's future economy, its environment, and its role in the world for years to come. Politically, the bill has split Congress sharply down party lines, highlighting the deep ideological divide that shapes American politics today. Both sides see the legislation as a defining moment, with far-reaching consequences for the country's future. Republicans hail it as a blueprint for economic growth, lower taxes, and stronger borders, delivering on key campaign promises they made to their voters. They argue that the bill will unleash business investment, create jobs, and make the country safer by tightening immigration policies. For many in the GOP, this legislation is proof that they can govern effectively and keep their word to the American people. President Trump personally pushed for its passage, working closely with Republican lawmakers to secure near-unanimous GOP support. He called the bill a historic achievement, emphasizing its importance for his administration's legacy. Only a handful of Republicans opposed it, voicing concerns about the potential impact on the national debt and increased government spending. These dissenters worry that the bill could have unintended long-term fiscal consequences. Democrats, led by Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, have fiercely criticized the bill, calling it immoral, a transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, and a direct attack on the social safety net. They argue it undermines the values of fairness and equality. According to Democrats, the bill will increase poverty, hunger, and the number of uninsured Americans, all to fund tax breaks for the wealthy and powerful. They warn that the most vulnerable communities will bear the brunt of these changes. For Democrats, the bill's priorities are fundamentally backward. They believe the nation should be investing more in healthcare, education, and social programs, not cutting them. They see these investments as essential to building a stronger, more equitable society. The debate is fierce, emotions are running high, and the divide between the two parties is stark. As both sides dig in, the future of the bill and its impact on millions of Americans remains at the center of a heated national conversation. So, what does this budget bill mean for America? It's a bold, rightward shift in fiscal policy, prioritizing tax cuts, border security, and reduced social spending. Supporters see it as a necessary reset, unleashing the economy and promoting self-reliance. Opponents see it as a disaster, punishing the vulnerable to benefit the wealthy, risking millions uninsured and more poverty. The bill forces a national conversation. Is government's role to foster business or to protect citizens from hardship? This budget firmly chooses the first path, a high-stakes gamble on a particular vision for America. Whether it delivers prosperity or deepens inequality is a question only time will answer.